If you hear lots of noises like crinkling paper or snapping, we have cats.
Hello and welcome to another episode of ATA with Danny and Ray, also known as All Things Animated. I'm Rachel, and today I am so excited because you're going to be hearing the episode where Jesse, Gabby, and I discuss all the episodes that made up the movie Scooby-Doo Frankencreepy. So there are 4 of them. We'll be jumping into A Night of Fright is No Delight, Ghost of Redbeard or Go Away Ship, Mamba Wamba and the Voodoo Hoodoo, and the Creepy Case of Old Iron Face. Now, I just need to give you guys a bit of a disclaimer. We had some technical issues, so there was quite a bit of reverb at times in this episode, unfortunately. I tried editing out as much as I can, and hopefully it's tolerable, but there is going to be some of that, just so you know. But it does get better as time goes on. Kind of waxes and wanes, if you will. So, without further ado, here is our review of the 4 episodes that make up Scooby-Doo Frankencreepy. Alright, Jesse and Gabby, we are diving into the background episodes for Frankencreepy, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And the Scooby-Doo Show. My question for you guys is, did you grow up watching the original Scooby-Doo?
I did.
Gabby, did you?
Trying to think. I think I grew up watching a lot of the offshoots, but not much of, the original one. Because I remember watching, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo and stuff like that, but I never watched the original one.
I never watched that till recently.
Really?
And now I watch it with, so the audience doesn't know, but I have, a toddler son, and he calls it, he can't say Scooby-Doo, he calls it doo-doo. Oh. And so he'll walk up to me and be like, doo-doo, doo-doo. And so,
oh, that's adorable.
We were watching the episodes for today's recording, and he was like, doo-doo? I'm like, yeah, buddy, we'll watch doo-doo. So, it was so cute. So you didn't grow up with the original, but you grew up with, Pup Named Scooby-Doo and stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's interesting.
I had a healthy mix of a lot of Scooby-Doo. Because at some point we had the Hanna-Barbera Boomerang channel on TV when I was younger. So I got to catch the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Yogi Bear, obviously Scooby-Doo. What's New Scooby-Doo was my jam. Pup Named Scooby-Doo is one that I watched at my grandma's house pretty often. But yeah, I had a really healthy mixture of the whole thing.
Yeah, same for me. I think I grew up watching Scooby-Doo Where Are You? Throwbacks on TV somewhere. I don't even know what channel that was, because we only had 3, and I do not know which would show Scooby-Doo. And then later on in middle school, high school, What's New Scooby-Doo was the best thing ever. And those are my favorites growing up anyway. Would you guys recommend these? I guess we'll make it specifically these episodes. Would you recommend the stuff we watched today to someone?
Yes.
Or maybe
Absolutely.
Maybe I should say the show at large. I don't know.
Well, the show at large I'd recommend to anybody, because I think there's a lot that anyone can like in it. Because while it is a formula they stick to, I don't know, there's a lot of silliness and jokes, and there's a lot of changing styles between writers and studios and stuff that I think anybody can find something they like about it. Mm-hmm. Just pick a version of Scooby-Doo and
run with it.
Yeah.
That's true. There's even just going between the different variations of Scooby-Doo over the years, you could literally pick the most different shows. And even just with Scooby-Doo Where Are You? There's a lot of variety.
Oh, yeah, the original, I feel like I would recommend the original first. And even if someone's not into older television, it's just so silly and kooky and quirky. I feel like it appeals to pretty much anybody, because it's not trying to be a serious mystery show or something. It's a cartoon with a laugh track and silly characters, and I don't know, it's easy watching. You can put it on the background and just let it go.
I literally did that today. I finished watching the episodes I was supposed to watch, and then I just conked out on the couch to Scooby-Doo.
Amazing.
That's what it's here for.
Couple fast facts about the original Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? It started in September of 1969. It aired for 2 seasons till October of 1970. And then there was kind of this weird phase where it was like Scooby-Doo All-Stars and the Scooby-Doo Scooby-Doo show were aired. And then, for those of you that don't know, we tried recording this episode already. And Jesse pointed out that they took the Scooby-Doo show, and repackaged it as the 3rd season of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
Yes, they did. When you go out and purchase it, like the classic Scooby-Doo series, it's seasons 1, 2, and 3. It's Where Are You and the Scooby-Doo show, which I didn't know until I was watching through them, because I have the DVDs myself. I was like, oh, this intro is not what I remember growing up with.
Do you guys like the Scooby-Doo show theme song? Or does it bother you because it's so different from the original?
It's okay. It's very much a product of its time.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
It misses the spookiness, I think.
That is true. The spookiness level is definitely not there with that one. That's for sure. Also on Wikipedia, this is my last fact. I'm keeping it brief today. I did not realize this, and this is according to Wikipedia, so who knows? But it said that Scooby-Doo, Where Are You was the result of CBS and Hanna-Barbera's plan to create a non-violent Saturday morning program that would appease the parent watch groups that had protested superhero-based programs in the mid-1960s.
That's really fascinating. And
isn't it?
The reason I find it fascinating is because I once studied the culture around comic books from their inception to kind of current. And I wrote a research paper on that for college. And when comic books first started becoming a thing, like superheroes, they had all these different genres. There were superheroes, there was like noir detectives, there was like jungle stuff. I think it was called Jungle Girl is like the type of genre it was. But they were seen as very violent and very inappropriate for kids by a lot of the more, I would say, like, I don't want to say like religious, but a lot of it was religious organizations who were in protest to it. And
that's so interesting.
There was a whole standard that was applied to comic books, what you could and couldn't do because of that. And then eventually Stan Lee, who founded Marvel, he started just doing whatever he wanted in protest of it. And he's one of the most, his company's one of the most prolific comic book companies in the world. Yeah. So I'm not surprised that in the 60s they were like, we need something that's not superheroes on TV, because everyone was up in arms about superheroes because it seemed to associate it inherently with violence. So that's very interesting that extended to television too.
I realize that there's action in I'm obviously we are not products of the 1960s or 70s. But that's so interesting because I don't think of violence when I think of superheroes. I think of cheesy action in tight suits, you know?
Especially in the 60s.
Yeah, in the 60s, like the most violent that it would be like really bad fight scenes that you can definitely tell are fake, and like just really corny costumes. Like that's the gist of them.
Yeah, and even if it wasn't animated, because I don't know exactly what shows were on in the 60s for superheroes, but even if they were animated, like the animations were usually corny and cheesy, and the dialogue was usually like witty or full of puns. Mm-hmm. Like there really wasn't an overabundance of blood, gore, and violence because they didn't have the budget for that kind of animation.
It makes me wonder if it just goes to show you like how expectations have risen when it comes to quality in film, and even how much more intense stuff has become because we are so numb to action and to violence and stuff now, you know? Like, we watch the stuff from then and we're like, what?
Yeah, it does not compare to, like, compare Adam West's Batman to The Dark Knight. It's not the same.
And so I just thought that was super interesting and it makes sense because if you notice, anytime Scooby-Doo has a chance to actually like tackle and get a bad guy, it never happens. It never works out. It's usually an accident or a trap. Like it's always a very non-violent way to get the bad guy. speaking of Scooby-Doo, let's dive on in.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's give like a brief summary of like what happens in each episode. We'll talk about like favorite moments, things that just stuck out to us, pros and cons, and then we'll rate them. Our enjoyment level out of 5 Scooby snacks and spookiness level out of 5 cobwebs. So our first episode that we watched that was featured in Frankencreepy was A Night of Fright is No Delight.
What a title.
Would either of you want to give a summary of what happened?
I can. So in this story, Scooby is among a few family members that have been called to this island of this, I think he was a colonel?
Yeah, he was
Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, because you made me think of the chicken guy.
Yeah. The chicken
So he's
guy.
passed away, and he's left an inheritance to his family members and to Scooby, who saved his life. The caveat is they have to stay on this creepy manor on this creepy island all night in order to be able to claim it. If any of them leave, their share goes to whoever's left. So it's kind of like a last person or people standing get to inherit the treasure, the riches. And that's the basic premise of what brings the gang to the island in the first place.
I would just like to say, before we jump into favorites, I love how, and we mentioned this in the last time, but just how this is a very similar setup to Frankencreepy, where one of the members of the gang receives this inheritance, and they have to come to this big spooky manor or mansion to come and claim it. However, one is the descendant of a crazy mad scientist, and the other is a dog-made hero to Colonel Sanders, supposedly the doppelganger to the KFC founder, I guess.
That's what he looks like and sounds
really
like.
does.
And he's named Colonel Sanders, so...
There's no way he's not, right? Like...
But it was did we determine if it was before or after KFC was a thing? Was it after?
Oh, my phone's dead.
In 1952, Sanders franchised his secret recipe, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Oh, so
So it
But
could
was
have been
he
a
famous?
reference.
It probably was a reference then.
Probably.
had to be.
It had to be. It's so... What's funny is if it's a reference, there's no chicken in sight.
Like, why are they like, you know who we should throw? You know who we should have die and give an inheritance to Scooby-Doo? Colonel Sanders.
Like... It's ridiculous. I love it.
So what else stuck out to you guys?
Just how old everyone was that was inheriting. Like, there was not a young person in sight except for the Scooby Gang. And, like, they are all hoping to get this inheritance whenever half of them do not look like they are going to have it for very long.
Yeah.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going through all this trouble, and... I mean, I don't know. I think I would still go if I was old, but I had a chance to inherit some money. Like, it's money. Who's going to say no to a chance for that? But I think the youngest in that group outside of the Scooby Gang is probably Cousin Slicker, because his hair is still dark.
Yeah.
But that's all I've got to go on for that.
The names, though. Was
Sweet
it
Cousin Maldehyde.
Yes,
is
that's my
name
favorite.
in a fictional story ever.
Who was like, you know what we should name our daughter? Maldehyde.
I just... After formaldehyde. You know, the thing they put dead animals in to preserve them. Well, I mean, pretty sure the color she was wearing on her dress was close to the color formaldehyde, so...
I think so. Yeah.
Oof.
Gross.
That poor child. I do have to say, this might be the spookiest ambiance out of all the episodes.
Yeah.
I'd say it comes at number 1. Whenever we're watching this and whenever we discussed this a little bit beforehand, I named this as my favorite of the 5, or the couple that we're discussing. I named this one my favorite because I think the atmosphere is amazing. As funny as it is, as Scooby-Doo always is funny, because that's what Scooby-Doo is. The atmosphere and the setting, it's perfect. It's what Scooby-Doo should be. A really spooky, creepy setting with all the jokes thrown in. That's like boiled it down to its basic elements there. And the monsters, the villains in this story are some of the most well-designed, in my opinion.
the ghosts in that story are terrifying. They're just massive black blobs with like glowing green eyes, and it doesn't look terrifying from afar, but then they do close-ups. They do like 2 or 3 close-ups in the episode of these monsters,
and they're creepy. The one animation section that they reuse a couple times, and they should, because they earned it with that one, is the green phantoms. One of them approaches the viewer like head on, and it's like shaking, and its mouth is opening and closing, and it's a truly creepy piece of animation. Like no other. There's not many more Scooby-Doo monsters that can actually kind of send chills down your spine. If you hear lots of noises like crinkling paper or snapping, we have cats.
And they like to crinkle paper.
Yes, they do.
They do like to crinkle paper.
I don't know where your guys is, like, seriously, just jump in and say random stuff you enjoyed or thought was weird or whatever. It's a dumb thing I noticed, but it cracks me up. I love the nightgowns. Like, we jump to the shot of Scooby and Shaggy, and they're both in, like, nightgowns, straight up, like, the hats and everything. And Scooby has slippers. I love it. I want a set.
Something that I've noticed with a lot of Scooby-Doo media is that when they pair the team off into guys and girls, which they often do, you've got Shaggy and Scooby and Fred together, maybe sleeping in one of the rooms of the place that they're staying in. More often than not, Scooby and Shaggy get to bed, and Fred just sleeps wherever.
I never noticed that.
Yeah.
We were watching WrestleMania, the Scooby-Doo WrestleMania mystery, because I have that
I've never
DVD.
seen that one.
Oh, it's hilarious. But they're staying in this cabin thing on the grounds of the place that they're investigating, and there's 2 beds and a couch. And Fred sleeps on the couch.
Not the dog.
Fred.
The leader of the gang.
I thought that was so funny, because I'm pretty sure, I might be misremembering this, but I know that Shaggy and Scooby are both sleeping in beds in the manor in What a Night for a Fright. I don't remember if Fred was sleeping in a bed or if he was sleeping on something else. But
they don't show us what Fred was sleeping on.
No, they don't do that.
No, they don't. They show
The
Shaggy
floor.
and Scooby in a bed, but I do not recall, like, seeing Fred sleeping on anything at all. He's just up.
He sleeps on
Maybe
the floor, on the rug.
Fred has insomnia.
Maybe.
He doesn't sleep.
Yeah, he could have insomnia. Poor guy.
Well, poor guy's definitely got ADHD with a hyperfixation on traps, so he probably has insomnia.
Oh, man. Oh, and Shaggy's sandwich, he was going to put fish food in his sandwich.
Yeah. He was gonna put, like...
Fish food.
If that fish didn't growl at him, he probably would have dumped the entire container onto his sandwich.
Also, the sentence, if the fish hadn't growled at him, is a really funny sentence. For sure.
Guys,
I love
I'm
when there are
concerned.
other animals that are characterized in Scooby-Doo stories. You actually see a lot more in the Scooby-Doo show and the unofficial season 3, I guess, official unofficial,
Yes.
is that there'll be more little animals that like appear. And I don't know, there's something endearing about Scooby making animal friends or animal enemies, like in the Tom and Jerry style. I don't know, it's hilarious. I love it. Because Scooby's the only animal that's really personified normally. So as soon as there's another animal that fits that same bill, I mean, of course they draw attention to it. It's a character in its own right. Especially when it's a frog. There's something about frogs, man. They always give them much more personality than anything else.
It's because it's a frog. Frogs already have big personalities.
They do.
I'm not trying to distract, but did y'all ever grow up watching The Swan Princess?
Yes.
Yes.
All I can think of is the frog from there and how he wants to be a prince. He's like, Odette, kiss me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, yes,
I love
frogs.
that movie.
That movie's so good.
Underrated.
We should... Oh, absolutely.
If it was Fox, it's probably on Disney Plus now.
Ooh.
It's not a Fox. It's Nest Family Entertainment. I think it was...
It's what?
Nest Entertainment or Nest Family Entertainment.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah, they
It's
didn't
the
do
same-
too much, did they?
They did a whole Bible series for kids.
Oh.
You can... It's on YouTube. Yeah, if you watch the ones on YouTube, just look up like a random like Bible story, any of them. And if you see one that looks like animation from Swan Princess, it's them.
Oh, wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, Scooby-Doo. Frogs, pets.
It's an animation podcast. It's fine.
What other things stuck out to you guys from this episode?
The only other thing I really want to just bring attention to for the story is the flying washing machine.
Yes.
So for those who haven't seen it yet or like waiting to watch it or whatever, the spoilers ahead, I guess. But the trap...
spoilers are a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. The trap that they set involves a fan?
Uh-huh. Old washing machine.
And
an ironing board.
An ironing board. And they were essentially trying to blow the ghosts to the ironing board so they would roll into the washing machine and get stuck there. Of course, the traps never go to plan. They hardly ever go to plan now that I think about it.
Yeah.
But the trap is triggered by Scooby instead in the hijinks that always ensue with him. And the ironing board, fan, and washing machine all get like combined, and Scooby and Shaggy end up flying it uncontrollably out of the room.
And like around the hall and then back into the room.
Down into the cave, out of the cave.
Yeah.
Being chased by the ghost and then
thing.
eventually chasing the ghost. And then they finally get to trap them in the washing machine at the end. But like, physics don't apply in Scooby-Doo anyway, but that flying washing machine is a sight to behold.
Oh, yeah.
That was the thought that kept coming to my brain in this episode is, if this was real life, the gang would have died forever ago.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. If this was real life, they would have died probably after the first story.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Or at the very least have been traumatized enough to need to go to therapy instead of to the next mystery.
Yes. My brain's jumping, but I have to share this Velma quote. Like, Velma, especially in this early series, is such a beast. Like, she is such a snarky lady, and I love it.
She's a savage.
Yeah. When they're in the cave and Shaggy's freaking out, Velma says to him, and I quote, "You're going to be brave no matter how chicken you are."
They gave Velma some of the best dialogue
Honestly.
in Scooby-Doo history.
She had the best one-liners in the original show, and like, I love it.
The one with Dracula's castle where he's like, "Turn back now or abandon all hope," or whatever, and she just goes, "You stop that," like a scolding mother. Just
I don't even know. She's my favorite. Like, I mean, Daphne's fun, but she doesn't have a whole lot of personality. I'll put it that way.
Well, with Velma,
Seemingly.
They could have made her a straight up nerd. Do you know what I mean? Like, she could have a nasally voice. She could have had an inhaler or something. She could have been only book smart, and like all of her jokes would have been like smart jokes that no one would laugh at, and that would have been the joke. But no, she's funny.
Yes.
Like, properly funny, and she's snarky. And as much as she, like, knows a lot of stuff, she's not necessarily a know-it-all.
No,
because
she's
she
not.
just shares information with people. It's never like she never does the nervous rambling that you would expect with her character archetype.
Yeah.
She kind of goes against the stereotype, which is funny.
Which is
because then she sets her
interesting.
own stereotype.
She is the basis for the later stereotype, which would be the very nerdy Velma.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Like, she's such a different Velma.
I would say that later Velmas end up being much nerdier than the original, which is really funny to me.
Yeah.
Especially in What's New Scooby-Doo. Like, she's not like a full-on nerd, but she is much
Isn't
more...
she?
Yeah, she's just much more of a nerd. I don't want to say she's much more lame, because I love her in that series.
Oh, no, she's great. Yeah.
But she really did kind of like... They really lent more into her smarts than into her snark, which is the reverse of like Mystery Incorporated, where they lent way more into her snark.
Yes. Be cool. Okay, I can't keep rambling about all forms of Scooby-Doo.
I know.
I
It's my
love
fault
it.
this time.
There's so many forms.
Well, and like they make fun of something that happens in this episode when Shaggy and Scooby get scared. They literally jump on Velma and expect her to carry them. And that's something they poke fun of all the time in that one.
Yeah, it's like Velma is... Well, I mean, she is carrying the show on her back a little bit.
Literally.
Or carrying the gang, I should say. She's the mystery solver.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I have one last note. The dog-shaped coffin.
I looked up what dog coffins look like.
No.
Because they are a thing.
Yes.
And they look, you guessed it, like a person's coffin, but smaller. So I don't know why they insisted on drawing a coffin that was shaped exactly like Scooby, like narrow at the waist, the haunches, everything's defined so it looks like a dog made of wood.
No, it did not look like Scooby.
Well,
it looked like a demented
like a
creature. It looked like a monster. It did not look like Scooby.
Yeah, no, a dog. Scooby wouldn't have fit in there, but it was made to look like it was for Scooby, even if it looks terrible. But no dog or animal coffin looks like that.
Yeah.
I love how they're like, oh, a dog coffin. It's like, really? That's what you thought when you saw that? I was like, what?
That looked like a really terrible woodshop project.
That's all I got, guys. So there's like 4 whole episodes that were referenced in Frankencreepy. Oh no, what was the name of the second one? The ghost pirate one. What is...
I've already forgotten the title. It's not as memorable as What a Night for a Fright.
Ghost of Redbeard Go Away Ship.
So what I remember from Redbeard is that they visit this guy named... He's a shipping magnate. They go to his house at night to ask him some questions. And they're turned away by the really creepy butler guy. But they end up going in and talking to him anyway. And he starts talking about how this ship is... This ghost pirate ship with Redbeard on it is coming out of nowhere, and he's been, like, making other ships vanish. So they go out for clue hunting out on the waters. And I thought this one was a unique story in the sense that when they finally get to the pirate ship, or rather when they finally get out into the water and start looking, Velma and Daphne and Fred are kind of rendered useless. They don't get to do much. They're kind of stuck on a little boat for a little while. So they don't get a lot of, like, agency to make decisions and find stuff. It's Scooby and Shaggy trapped on the ghost pirate ship that find all the stuff and encounter the Redbeard and his goons. So I thought that was pretty unique for the story. But it turns out Redbeard is the shipping magnate that they talked to before.
C.L. Magnus, that was the owner of the steamship line.
Oh, right, because Magnus, shipping magnate. Yeah.
Yes.
Because they do that kind of naming stuff.
Yep.
I think us having trouble remembering much about this story goes to prove my point that this was the most boring of the collection that we watched.
Oh boy.
Like, comparatively.
Yeah.
Not that it was boring to watch, but it was the least
It wasn't memorable. Yeah.
It doesn't grip you like the other ones.
It's also very silly. Like, they're all silly, but that soup they made for the captain...
Yes! I love the specific title, Ghost Pirate Stew.
Ghost Pirate Stew. And what was in it? Do we remember?
Cobwebs, chains, there was
ashes?
More. Soap, ashes.
And soap.
There's
yep,
bubbles.
Yeah.
I half wonder, what was he expecting from them? Was he expecting, like, real stew? Because I would have made them eat it too. If I was like, you made me this, you eat it.
That I thought was really funny.
We mentioned this the last time we discussed this, but I love the malt shop that they meet at.
Yes.
At the very beginning. It's such a vibe.
It really is. It's very, like, quintessentially Scooby-Doo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, it takes place in the 60s and 70s. They go to the malt shop and hang out. There's rock and roll playing in the background. It's got all the bright, fun colors. It's like quintessential Scooby-Doo, like I said.
Yep.
And the malt shop, not that specific one, but malt shops make further appearances throughout the series, all the way up until, like, you know, the modern era.
Yeah.
So, like, it's definitely a fixture of Scooby-Doo.
And, like, even in the modern era, they kind of replaced it with, like, a burger shop, which is pretty darn close to a malt shop.
Yeah. And they've been to malt
do.
shops in some of the more recent, not, like, super, super recent, but they, like, alternate between, like, the malt shop, the burger shop. I think they go to an ice cream parlor a couple of times.
Yeah.
But they definitely have, like, the hangout spot.
They do, like, an old-style diner every once in a while.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of with the ice cream parlor, because they're kind of designed the same way. With the checkered floors and the red booths and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the malt shop. It's very It's very them. It's very the gang. It's a place for them to hang out.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Did you guys notice what time? So they heard about the pirate ghost going around. Did you notice what time they went to check in on CL Magnus and visit him?
I know it was late and it was night.
It was 11 p.m.
What?
What were they expecting?
And they were turned away. And they acted like it was like weird that they were turned away at 11 p.m.
I wouldn't have opened the door. I'd been like, sorry, you're not coming in. I'm going to bed.
If a bunch of teenagers and a dog came to my door, I'd be like,
At 11 p.m.
What are they doing?
In a building. Like, it's not that they knocked on his front door. They went all the way up them steps, knock on his, like, suite or apartment door or whatever. Like, that's
Yeah, I
even
don't know.
weirder.
Yeah.
You know you're specifically being sought out if they come all that way to see you.
Top floor. And if I remember the shot from the outside, it was at least 6 stories. And I don't know if they had elevators in buildings like that at the time. I don't know if those were, like, a regular feature.
It just made me very much aware of the fact that, like, I've been watching this show my whole life, it feels like, and I never realized how often their adventures are, like, in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
You are young people, aren't you?
Well, why, from a production point of view, why do you think they tend to do everything at night?
Would it be the vibe? You know what I mean? Like the color palette and giving it that spookier feel.
I always thought it was the color palette. Because if you notice, a lot of Scooby-Doo episodes have the same, like, 6 colors to them, which is fine. It looks great that way. It looks very cohesive overall. But the blues, purples, grays, and browns, sometimes
Dark
greens.
like the greens. Yeah.
And I think at night, they don't have to worry about well, not they would have to worry about it anyway, but the lighting doesn't change. When it's night, it's night. And you can have fog, and you can have better shadows. And with shadows means you don't have to, like, have as much detail in the backgrounds because they hand painted those.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just, I think it was easier on the production team overall to keep things at night. And it just added the bonus of this is spooky.
And insane. I would have been dragon.
Yeah, I can imagine going all night, like solving a mystery, running around from people in costumes, talking to a dog. Like, I'd be tired after the first 2 hours.
Honestly.
That's why Scooby talks. It's not because it's real. It's because they're hallucinating from staying up all night, every night.
This is the headcanon I'm here for.
That's literally what it is. The show is all a lie. It's just the hallucinations of these sleep-deprived teenagers.
Have you heard the other theory about, like, why the series happens at all?
I'm scared.
So it's in the 60s, right?
They're all on drugs.
The theory is that this takes place in Canada and that Shaggy and Freddy are dodging the draft for the Vietnam War. And that they ran away with like Velma and Shaggy. And also, like, it's the 60s, 70s, so drugs. And that's why Scooby can talk to them, because they're all high driving around Canada dodging the draft. That's why there's silly men in costumes everywhere too.
But don't they not that we need to stay on this trail forever, but, like, don't they specifically reference the United States, like,
I think
throughout
they
the
do.
series?
Yeah.
I think so.
I don't know. I thought that was a really funny, if, like, tragic theory.
If they're high on drugs, maybe they just call things states and they don't know.
That's
I don't know where they are. They're up in Manitoba, like, this is New York City. Like,
This is taking such a turn and I love it. Oh, okay. So this is random. It's not random. It's in the episode. But, okay, the whole CL Magnus claims that Redbeard's ghost is coming back for revenge, right?
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And I just love it because it's a twist of fate, because Magnus, obviously, is playing Redbeard. And ultimately, when he gets caught, he comes back for revenge against the Scooby Gang in the Frankencreepy movie. Yeah.
Oh, I did not make that connection in my head. That's really funny.
I was like, that's so fascinating. Like, the whole, he's coming for revenge. And then Magnus is like, I'm coming for revenge. Thought that was so cool.
You make that connection, that you point that out. That makes it even funnier than when it's Crawls or Creeps, one of the lawyers. So in the previous story that we talked about, the two ghosts were two lawyers who were trying to get a hold of the colonel's money, and only one of them came back in Frankencreepy for revenge. But he came back when we first see him. He is posing as a lawyer. Well, he is a lawyer, or he was one, but he's posing as a lawyer but without a disguise.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's just have a pair of glasses. Like, and when you look at the episode that they reference in Frankencreepy, when they pull up the clip of them being unmasked in the green costumes, he just looks like that.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't really a disguise at all. He's only disguised when they get to Transylvania, Pennsylvania. Like, he didn't even try, and the Scooby-Dang did not pick him out.
It's the glasses swooped hair thing that, like, Superman does. Yeah, it's the Superman complex.
Hilarious. I just thought of that because you made that connection with Magnus. That's really funny.
Did y'all... I just have stuff written down. I'm just going through this list. Is that cool? Because there's another funny thing. The fact that Shaggy and Scooby... Or I don't think it's even a boat. I think they're like in a bucket in the sea or something, and they're trying to follow the pirate ship. Mm-hmm. And Scooby sees a shark fin and is like, he's freaking out because he thinks it's a shark, and he picks it up and there's no shark attached. It's just a fin following them, and he puts it down and is like, oh, okay. What?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in this story, were they not also lost in a fog?
Yes, and they eat it.
Yeah, the pea soup. He uses his little claw to cut a hole out of the fog and then eat it. Like, lots of silliness in this one. More so than the last one. Mm-hmm. Or I shouldn't say more so than the last one, but there's more little moments of silly sprinkled in.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What else stuck out to you guys? Or not? I just have notes, and I felt bad for talking, but...
Well, no, I didn't have really many notes about this story, because like I said, it wasn't as entertaining as the other ones that we watched. So I think this was at the bottom of the list for me. I still enjoyed it, but nothing really else stood out to me.
All right, I'll just end with my two last sillies. One, once again, they defy logic and physics when they shot the plunger bow and arrows onto the man's bottoms and then shot the other end at the ceiling, and somehow that momentum pulled them up towards the ceiling. Even though we all know that never would have happened in real life.
Yeah.
And then my favorite is the pirate's demise, where he gets a jackhammer in his pants.
Listen, like, could you imagine being a physicist in the Scooby-Doo universe? Like, they're tearing their hair out trying to figure out how anything works because of stuff like this.
It's ridiculous. Okay, anyway, there you go. I'm good. I just had to get that out of my system because I was like
we were saying, there's lots of little sillies, and then those are bigger sillies, but there was a lot of sillies in it.
Mamba Wamba and the Voodoo Hoodoo.
These titles.
The sillier the title, the better the episode.
So I'll do the summary if you want.
Do it.
So in this story, the gang go to see some of their friends who have formed a band. And they go to see them in concert. And after this, they end up going with the band down to this abandoned plantation home down south. And it's here that the band members are slowly kidnapped and supposedly turned to voodoo dolls. Or maybe not turned to voodoo, but have voodoo dolls made of them. But being kidnapped by this voodoo shaman who's been hypnotizing them.
Yeah, what is he? Anyway, he's
there's
a witch
lot
doctor.
Of stuff going on in this one, but basically they're taken, or they're being targeted by this shaman, and they're finding voodoo dolls all over the place. This one has a really good atmosphere when they get to the plantation home. It's some of the the cooler artwork that we get to see in there. The room they step into initially has all these pieces of furniture that are covered in like sheets and stuff. And I know that's not like necessarily like a groundbreaking imagery, but it looks really cool.
I just feel bad for Daphne in this episode because her, I don't know what the animators I think did Daphne last, and they're like, we're tired, we quit. If she looks horrific, it's fine.
Like, it's one thing to pause the episode and be like, oh, poor Daphne, her eye's kind of lazy there. But like, as you're watching, you can see the animation failing her. Like, they don't even try. It's so noticeable. And Daphne always gets the short end of the stick.
Yep.
I kind of noticed it in general, but like this episode in particular, I don't know if it was a late night or what, but those animators did not give a rip about her face at all. They're like...
Which is funny considering that Daphne gets a little bit of agency in this story. Like when they split off with the band members to search the house, I forget specifically what happened, but Daphne makes the discovery all on her own.
She faces the zombie and the witch doctor, and she actually she's like, you want a piece of this? Like she tries to kung fu fight them. She
fights them off a little bit.
Or tries to.
Or tries to. I don't know. I just like the fact that she got to try to do that. Like the story, the writers and the animators let her do that. Because usually she's a bit cardboard, which is, I love Daphne, but she is a bit cardboard sometimes. So anytime she gets to do something on her own like that, I'm really happy for her.
It seems like, especially in the older series, like, 'cause she doesn't have a whole lot of personality shine through. And it is fun to see her break out and do silly things like that.
Yeah. I mean, she gets to do that in Frankencreepy too, where especially in the altercation with her and Freddy against the villain, like she gets to do things, and she actually ends up saving Fred's life in that. So another great callback in that is that Daphne gets to do things if you just let her do things. Like, God bless Daphne.
And so I know, Jesse, I know this is your favorite out of the four. So, or is it? No, it's the first one.
This one's my second favorite, but not for the reasons that the other one is my first favorite. I like A Night of Fright Is No Delight because I think it's a really well done story. It looks really good. It's the right amount of funny and wacky to the creepy atmosphere. Like, that's really good. This one is my favorite, or rather second favorite, because it's so dumb. Let's just remember that the song they do that supposedly summons the voodoo shaman or brings the curse upon them is the most rhythmless white thing I have ever heard. It sounds terrible. I can't believe that they did that and was like, yeah, this sounds like something a popular band would do. And they're all acting like it's amazing when anyone listening to it would go, huh?
Also, like they're acting like it's some thing that they derived from a tribal thing. Otherwise it wouldn't have summoned a voodoo. But it's so white. And by white, we don't mean that being white inherently is a terrible thing. But you know how sometimes white people will try to do something that originates from an ethnicity that's not white. And it's just...
And you're like, stop.
It's tacky.
Don't.
Yeah.
It's tacky. Terrible.
And the whole premise of this, the whole reason that, what's her face? Lila. That Lila and the manager go out and concoct this crazy scheme is because they want the rights to this $1 million song. That's
which it's like a $10 song at best.
I wouldn't give 50 cents to this. I was like, they were expecting this to be a big hit. Like, if you're banking on this and you're going out of your way to get this song, I'm sorry. You shouldn't be managing people. You shouldn't be
yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that the first time around that we talked about this. I didn't even think about the fact that the song is meant to be this smash hit when all it really do is going to smash the bottom of the barrel that it's going to get tossed into by the public.
Yeah.
Like, I know the music industry in the 60s and 70s was a different time, but they still made good music.
They still had taste.
This would not have made it onto public radio for very long.
Not have.
I just like that. That's the whole episode is we have to have this song. And it's like, you want that song? You want that song?
It's so ridiculous. For animation stuff, I mean, again, Daphne gets thrown on the stick. Poor Daphne. But I gotta say, some of the artistic choices are really cool. The voodoo dolls themselves, as they discover them, look like characters from Charlie Brown.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they do.
I thought that was really cute. That I don't know if that was intentional or if that was just like a coincidence kind of thing. But when I first saw them, I was like, oh, that looks like characters who would have been on Charlie Brown.
They had to make all those.
Yep.
What did they do? Did they hire someone? Did they get someone to crochet them little voodoo dolls? Like, what? That's a lot of work. Did they have ones of the gang as a backup? Like
that's a lot of money too. Like, everything they did had to have cost money. The costuming, they had to pay the people to be there with them. Like, the manager and Lila, and then the goons were people who had to have been paid.
Yeah.
The dolls would have been made by somebody.
And like, yarn's not cheap either. So even back in the 60s, that would have cost them a pretty penny.
So for a 10-cent song at best, they spent all this time and money.
They spent like $1,000 in today's money just for all of this at a minimum.
because someone doesn't know music.
Yeah, like, how could you become a music manager and not know that this song is terrible? Well, we want to blame them. The writers wrote this plot, and it makes no sense.
I bet you the writers originally like, okay, we'll get someone to make this really great song, but it's the night before, it's midnight, and they're like, you know what? We're going to give Daphne a terrible face and Bob in the corner. Just record us a quick little chant. You're fine.
Just slap a face on Daphne. Doesn't matter if it's good. And then slap a song on the episode, and let's call it a day.
That's probably exactly what happened too.
Oh, you know how many times they probably had to, like, call it a day just making the original Scooby-Doo because they had no money.
Yep.
Hanna-Barbera was not a studio that was making money.
Oh, no, they weren't. They were literally doing it for fun.
Obviously, they were making money, but they weren't an expensive studio. They weren't Disney. Even Disney was doing pretty okay at this time.
Yeah.
You know? So, at the end of the day, I'm sure they had to just call it and say, all right, this is fine. Slap a face on Daphne and call it. It's probably what happened all the time.
Well, I think that's how they made money eventually, was because they took shortcuts and, you know, they were economic with their animation choices, and it
can
paid
tell.
off in the end. Yeah, you
It's
can
part
tell.
of the charm now. There's a whole blog on Tumblr dedicated to classic Scooby-Doo smear frames. So when you pause the episode in a smear frame, and there are so many, because you throw a smear frame in the storyboard and it gives the illusion of movement, right? Like quick movement. But really, it's just 3 frames of this blobulous Scooby moving from left to right, and he looks ridiculous if you pause it at the right time. I love it.
I love that someone took the time to do that.
Yes.
That's great.
Everyone needs a hobby, and we like this one that someone else did.
Speaking of things I like in this episode, I love the frog. I'm so glad he stuck around. And I want him to become a regular.
Yes, it is.
This is the one with the frog.
Because they're like in a bog type thing. Bog or a swamp or something.
Oh yeah, because they're down in New Orleans.
Yep.
Or the Louisiana.
He steals the contract, and he's running around with it with Scooby and Shaggy, and it's great.
See, and I've made this opposition before, but if they had decided to keep the frog for the rest of the Scooby-Doo series, for the rest of the franchise, I think it would have been a lovely addition. Because he doesn't have to talk. He's got all the personality that he needs in action.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, so when they were doing the chase, okay, the whole thing is a chase scene, but there's this bit where they're running through the grass, and it's like this wide angle, so you see everybody. And I kept watching the sky, and you could see it like, I don't know how to describe this because I don't do animation, but you could literally see it like a GIF. You know how you know when a GIF starts because it like glitches and goes back to the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like the blue sky was a GIF as they were running through the grass. And I was like, I see it click to the beginning.
It's basically because it was on a reel.
Right.
Is what's happening. It's on a reel that's spinning.
They couldn't have made the beginning and end a little more similar because it was a big jolt.
If I'm like hazarding a guess from what I do know about how they did those kind of sequences, is they painted it from left to right and then wrapped it around a spool, basically. So if the person wasn't thinking about where the beginning and end would meet, then yeah, it looks like it's just a hard line cutting itself off.
That's exactly what it looked like.
And that happens a lot in Scooby-Doo. Also, when you can see like dust particles that move with certain characters, because the animation frame that they're on that's separate from the other characters or parts of scenery, like it has its own little white specks, right? You've seen it, you may not have known it. But like say Shaggy's running away and he leaves the frame, some of those particles follow him because it's on his layer.
Oh my goodness.
It's charming little stuff like that just makes you appreciate where we started in animation and how far we've come. It's part of the charm.
Absolutely. Guys, I would just like to say that at the end of this episode, the trap actually worked for once.
Yes!
Yep. It was a once-in-a-lifetime thing for Fred.
Yeah.
Also, the trap was made out of materials that I could easily believe were found around the property.
Mm-hmm.
You know how sometimes they'll make a trap and they use some stuff from the setting, but there's other stuff you're like, where did you get that? Like, Fred, do you just have like a suitcase hidden in your back pocket full of random stuff for traps?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, probably.
That just makes me think of the van in Frankencreepy, because every time they need something, Fred's like, oh, we could use this for a trap. I'll go get it. It's in the back of the van. And no, the van exploded.
More flashbacks.
It's gone. I was so impressed. I'm like, you go, Freddy. Your trap worked for once.
Oh, I had an observation that I wanted to make, but one of the most popular Scooby-Doo movies, at least from like the 90s anyway, is Scooby-Doo Zombie Island. It's very notable for several reasons, but while watching Mamba Wamba, and I make this observation knowing that a lot of Louisiana looks like this, but it did strike me that the Zombie Island seems to take a lot of artistic inspiration from Mamba Wamba. I know that can be kind of like a coincidence just because of the setting. It's just a plantation in Louisiana. But I don't know, the inside of the house, the scenes that take place in the bog, and a lot of it just seems to foreshadow what they eventually decide to do with Zombie Island. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was intentional with Zombie Island or not, but I could see it being an intentional choice for them.
I could see them being like, hey, what if we took this episode and made it bigger and better almost, you know?
Yeah, and also made where the monster is real.
Yeah. Like, one of the very few times where that's a thing in Scooby-Doo. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that speaks volumes about how the artistic direction of Mamba Wamba was really well done. Like, we can make fun of the plot and some of the animation errors that are present in every episode, but really overall Mamba Wamba looks really good.
it does.
Yeah, Night for Fright also looks really good. Just that they had really good direction on that.
It looks good, and it's enjoyable. Like I feel like sometimes the pirate one felt a little slow at times, and this one was just like, yeah, this is great. Love this.
Well, it's because stuff kept happening.
Yeah.
Like, they never gave your brain a break, because if they did, the whole episode would fall apart. So things just kept happening. Pretty sure the writers know that if you stop for just a second, everyone's gonna be like, hey, wait a minute, about their plot lines. And so they just have to keep throwing stuff at you until the episode's over.
And then you can say, hey, wait a minute, after it's over and done and you've had time to process.
And hey, they just need the viewers. That's all they need.
Yeah, the plots, it's all the same plot every time.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo from, like, the beginning is kind of like a Mad Libs, but, like, they've got a dartboard with random words and characters on it, and they're just like, we need an adjective, throws a dart, and there you have it, and they're just spilling it out.
Literally, what if they had that in the office? What if that is how they came up with half of these plots?
It wouldn't surprise me, not only because I think it's funny, but because a lot of writers' rooms just do that stuff. They're like, all right, throw me some ideas. And they just like, they compose, they used to call them Bibles. I think they still have them, but they made like a series Bible for stuff. I don't know if that's like for more serious stuff or for cartoons, but writers' rooms would be throwing everything around and people are making notes and then they're figuring out what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very haphazard. It was a brainstorming session where anything went.
That sounds so fun.
So I don't know if Scooby-Doo had it, but I imagine they probably did.
Probably.
I'm banking on they had a Mad Lib book, and
Yeah.
that's
basically what writers' rooms are, is just a bunch of Mad Libs.
That's great. I love that.
Professional Mad Libs.
What is the greatest tool in your career? Oh, I have a book of Mad Libs I use for writing my episodes. Are y'all ready for the creepy case of old Iron Face?
Yes.
All right. Jesse, you've been summarizing all of them up until this point. You might as well keep going. Unless you want me to.
No, I can do it. You may have to correct me if I get a detail wrong. So, the case of old Iron Face, there is a prison on an island that looks like a skull. And there's this ghost story that one of the prisoners, it goes that he was so ugly they, like, welded an iron mask to his face. Right?
It wasn't that he was ugly. It was like he was so mean or something.
No, I think it was that he was so deformed.
The prison guard hated him so much that I'm pulling this episode up.
Oh, that, like, the prison guard hated him so much they welded an iron mask to his face so he wouldn't have to look at him.
Yeah, something like that where it was like,
right.
Yeah.
I feel bad not knowing the proper story.
It, like, I just remember it's something like that because it was so dark.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we made the observation, like, we all were in agreement that, like, this is probably one of the more, like, sinister origins for a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's Redbeard the pirate, and then there's, like, the creepy ghouls that, like, haunt the manor in Night for a Fright, and there's the voodoo shaman. But this one is a guy goes to prison, gets a metal mask welded to his face, and then he dies. Like, that's really bleak. And this is still early Scooby-Doo. Like, this isn't Zombie Island.
I can't. The wiki is not helping me. But
Well, essentially, old Iron Face is what he comes to be known. Comes back to haunt that same prison. And he's seen, iconically, riding sharks around the waters that surround this island. Now, I don't remember why the gang went to the island. I think there was some kind of tour.
it's because they were supposed to meet their tour guide, and the tour guide never showed up for dinner to meet them.
Right.
And so they figured what better place to look for their tour guide than Skull Island, where they were supposed to get a tour.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the same episode where there's a sequence of them being in the boat going out to Skull Island, and nobody's looking at the ocean. They're all looking down at something while Fred's driving. So Fred's driving without looking where he's going, and the sky is moving the wrong way in a couple of sequences. Like, it flips from a side, like a profile view of them going from, left to right on the screen, as you would expect, and the sky's going the right direction. And then it flips to a face-on view of Fred, and the sky is still moving the same way. But it wouldn't be because, or like it should be because they changed angles. So it just looks weird. And it threw me when I saw it. If it's not in this one, it was in Night for a Fright, but I'm pretty sure it was in this one.
I think so.
Oh my
But that's another animation thing.
Wait, did we ever finish our summary?
No.
No, because I
You trailed.
trailed. I'm sorry. So old Iron Face, he comes back to haunt the prison. The gang goes there because they can't find their tour guide. And then Iron Face terrorizes them while they're at the prison. Actually, that was pretty much it for my summary.
And lo and behold, who is old Iron Face?
So this is fun because I feel like this is unique for old Scooby-Doo. Old Iron Face, this big buff ghost with an iron face who rides sharks around, is a woman. And not only that, it's not revealed that she's this little tiny woman. She is a muscular woman who's tough. Like, you don't really see that very much in Scooby-Doo. The women are like witches and ghouls and stuff, and the men are the big monsters and such, but no, they let a muscular woman play this male tough guy ghost, which I thought was super cool. And it was very unexpected. Like, it was a twist that I didn't see coming.
Mama Mion. Yes, Mama Mion.
Mama Mion. Yep. I gotta say, with that twist in mind and how much I really enjoy it, I was disappointed with Frankencreepy's use of Mama Mion.
Yes!
Because they just put her in a dress and made her as skinny as all the other ladies in it.
Yep.
And it did not look like her.
No, it didn't. And you gotta think, all of them are coming from prison, right?
Yeah.
Like, Mama Mion absolutely would have been lifting weights in the yard.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because that's what she looked like before she went to prison.
She'd be so ticked off and bent on revenge that she'd be working out just to manage her anger.
It would have made more sense if Lila had been dressed up as the lady who was running the castle in Frankencreepy. And Mama Mion was just the monster. Because the monster's this giant thing that I think would have suited her personality and her revenge need better. Like, I think she was used... Not underused, because they all got to be used pretty well in the movie, but I think she was used not to her greatest potential.
That or they just needed to actually make it look like her body. Like, there's no physical way she could have... Like, she literally
and, like, this is
shrunk.
based on Eastern European, like, culture. Like, it's an amalgamation of it, obviously. It's not a specific country, but it's based on that. And, like, there's some big ladies in Eastern Europe. Like, that's a stereotype that we already have.
Yep.
Like muscular ladies who work on the farm and work hard to keep things running. Like, that's not an alien concept. So they made her this little tiny petite lady that doesn't make any sense. And takes away from the fact that she's a really cool, unique character from the original series.
Yeah. Yeah, she is.
So, that's my 2 cents. Rant over.
Like, I love the character she plays, but it definitely was not utilized well. That's for sure. Something I noticed was, one, Shaggy and Scooby are very good at skiing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have y'all water skied before? Because,
No.
I can get up, but that's about it. Like, staying up is the struggle.
Well, he flew a washing machine. I'm pretty sure skiing is probably nothing compared to that.
Okay, it's valid. Yeah. And also, when the sharks do show up, Freddy exclaims from the boat, "A school of man-eating sharks!" Like, who says that? Who says a school of man-eating sharks? I'd be like, oh no, sharks! But no.
Yeah.
Listen, this is the same man who says treasure.
He does?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
There's a compilation online of a bunch of times where he says treasure, and he says it so weird. Treasure. Buried treasure. We found the treasure.
I am going to look this up and put the audio in the episode here.
And they're carrying treasures from the pyramid before the treasures are smuggled out of the country. The stolen treasures.
It's so funny. But yeah, Fred says all kinds of weird stuff. Actually, it just occurred to me, Fred says a lot of weird stuff in the series.
Oh, yeah. Fred's, like, quotes are just so out of pocket.
And you don't notice them because he's not like Shaggy and Scooby where there's so much going on with them, or Velma where the snark is like devastating. Fred and Daphne get some really good one-liners, but they're not as recognized.
Yeah, I don't think I ever would have thought to like focus on what he says. I just want to point out the fact that they waited. They were supposed to meet Captain Morgan, the tour guide, for supper, right? Okay, supper, usually like 6 o'clock, right? They waited for him for 2 hours, over 2 hours. they say that several times. Like, it's been 2 hours. I wonder where he is. Wow, he was supposed to meet us here for supper 2 hours ago. Like, who waits 2 hours?
Yeah.
Like,
Who does that?
I get waiting an hour maximum because you're really just trying to give them enough time to get to you because, stuff can happen.
Yeah, especially, like, this was pre-Wi-Fi and all that stuff. Like,
Well, even in, like, the 70s where you couldn't just, like, text somebody, like, hey, I broke down, or hey, I forgot something, I had to turn back. You could still call the place that you were going to meet them at and say, hey, can you let my table know that I'm going to be late because of this? Like, that was a thing that they did. So the fact that they didn't hear anything at all, super suspicious. After the first hour, I would have gone out and start looking.
Yep.
I don't know if they just were hanging out and having such a good time.
Just forgot.
But, like, Shaggy and Scooby hadn't eaten yet. And we all know.
Yeah. They would have been the first people to get up and say, we can't eat until he gets here, so let's go find him and bring him back here.
Yeah.
I'm just like, who does that? I just don't understand the logic. Maybe there is no logic.
There is no logic.
Yeah. What else stuck out to you guys? I just have that the origin story was really creepy because it was.
I like the Skull Island concept. Maybe because up until now, the settings that we're looking at, pirate ship, manor on a island, plantation home, like, they're all pretty rational locations. Like, the paintings are gorgeous. It looks like something that you would see out of, like, a group of paintings, maybe hung on someone's house. You know what I mean? The pirate ship, all that stuff. The Skull Island is so on the nose. Like, it straight up looks like a skull, which, it's called Skull Island. But it's not even, like, the impression of a skull. Like, there's a, I forget where it is, but there's a place called Elephant Rock, because it kind of looks like an elephant dipping its trunk into the ocean. And it's a cliff. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, that looks like an elephant. I can see it, but it also looks like a cliff. This just looks like a skull, just straight up. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't look like a skull that was worn into the side of an island. It's cartoonish in a way that the other settings weren't.
Yeah, it looks like someone specifically carved this mountain to look like a skull. Like,
Right.
all of it was so intentional. Like, it wasn't a mistake.
Mount Rushmore would make it goth.
Yeah.
Speaking of Skull Island, okay. Sorry, the audience members can't hear my arms waving
They
as
were
I'm
very,
like,
very waving. A lot.
Okay, like, here's I wrote in my notes, okay. Because, underneath Skull Island, we find out in the end that there's this whole secret lair where it's like a kitchen and a place for these prisoners to sleep and stay in the midst of all the smuggling, right?
Yeah.
And my question is, at some point, they would have had to bring a construction team to build the mansion and the kitchen and everything underneath the prison. When and how did they do that? Like, nobody noticed? An entire construction team probably had to be there and nobody noticed? Seems logical.
Is it ever stated that it was just the prisoners who did that? Or is it possible that there was, like, a corrupt ring of staff and prisoners who put that together for smuggling?
Right, but still, there had to be people and tools. Like, that was a major renovation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no,
That's
you're
not
right.
going to be some guys and hammers. Like,
Yeah, one hammer.
They're taking turns.
like, I mean, y'all know I'm married to a building man. Like,
Yeah.
You don't do that stuff with some house tools.
With one hammer.
A singular hammer.
It's a really big one.
I mean, I know it's not life-changing information. I just want to know how they pulled it off. I just want to know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy now that you mention it. I didn't really pay attention to that part so much because it looks so cool in there.
It does.
Like, the artwork is amazing, and the layout of the mansion smuggling lair is really cool.
And it looks state of the art.
Yeah. I don't know when the smuggling was meant to have taken place, but it looks fairly modern as of the episode's, like, date.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm like, this is a nice new renovation.
What if Mama Mion was just
Whacking away at the stone.
with her giant hammer?
Yes,
That's
Mama
it.
Mia did all of that single-handedly. I'd buy
Because she's
it.
such a beast. Yes. Okay. Yep. It resolved. It was
She
all her and her
dedicated,
buffness.
capital B.
She is the construction crew.
Exactly.
You know what? I can almost believe it. Because when Shaggy and Scooby are running through the prison, locking doors behind them, she doesn't unlock the doors. She
just
literally
breaks them down.
She smashes through like 3 or 4 of them.
It's so ridiculous, because you think about, here's how the Scooby-Doo logic works out. While the villain is in the costume, they have like all of the abilities and strength of the person they're pretending to play. So like the monster or the ghost or whatever. And as soon as the mask comes off, they're just this pathetic little person. You know what I mean? Like that's how. And
Yeah,
like we just watched that WrestleMania movie where the villain was a guy dressed up as a bear. And granted, he's a strong guy, but the bear acted like a bear the whole time. But with Mama Mion, I can believe 100% that she wasn't just wearing the mask and that gave her the magical Scooby-Doo plot powers of being strong. Like, no, Mama Mion is that strong.
Yeah, Mama Mion is just, she is built.
She's a beast.
She
She
is
is a beast. Like, it defies, like, the defying logic. You kind of see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's no magic involved.
No.
Well, the costume thing has always bothered me because you always have these really creepy monsters or ghosts or whatever, and then you find out, oh, it was wires. Oh, it was this really rinky-dink person. Oh, it was this. And, like, I think Be Cool Scooby-Doo kind of made fun of that a little bit because, I mean, they make fun of everything, but there's this episode where Shaggy, spoilers if you're going to watch this one, Shaggy's grandma, turns out there's this like baboon attacking a nursing home. And it was Shaggy's grandma in the costume the whole time, but she's running around, jumping, climbing, hooting and hollering like a full-blown gorilla, and it's his grandma in a nursing home. I feel like that's the perfect example of what you're talking about, Jesse.
Well, since this is we're doing this because of Frankencreepy, I think Frankencreepy subverted that pretty well too. Like they randomly mention this. Well, spoilers. They randomly mention the exoskeleton robot thing at the beginning as like a weird off mention of Velma's interests, and then later the monster is one of those robot suits being controlled by one of 4 people at a time. And like, okay, well that explains why it can like climb and break things and do stuff, because it's a huge robot mech suit. So the suspense of disbelief still works out, because no matter what the size of the person in it is, they're using a robotic suit to do all of that stuff. So it's not the rinky-dink grandma in a gorilla suit.
So much defying of gravity and reality. It's great. Did you guys have any other thoughts on this one?
No, I think we've talked about everything I could think about.
Yeah.
We haven't rated the episodes, though.
All right. We're going to start with A Night of Fright is No Delight. Enjoyment. I would give that 4 out of 5 Scooby Snacks. It was good. Maybe 3.5. Like, I don't know. I didn't love it. Even though I know it was good. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm going to be harsh and give it a 3.5 for my personal enjoyment, while I do realize it was well done. Spookiness for the cobwebs, 5 out of 5 cobwebs. It was spooky.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
I give it the same 5 out of 5 for cobwebs. Definitely the creepiest atmosphere of the 4. Probably the creepiest atmosphere of most Scooby-Doo episodes from that time. I'm sure there'll be exceptions to that.
Yeah.
I would also give it like a 4.5 for enjoyment. It is one of my favorite stories because I just like how it's written. I like how well done it is. I like how the art direction is. Definitely going to give it that.
I definitely give it 5 out of 5 cobwebs. That ghost, man. That ghost. But yeah, I do about 4.5 for entertainment.
Wow, y'all are going high on the entertainment one. Wow. There you go.
I said it was one of my favorites, so.
It is, and it is out of Scooby Snacks, just so
Yes, it
Yeah,
is out of
Scooby
Scooby
Snacks.
Snacks.
All right, Ghost of Redbeard. For me personally, enjoyment. Watching it the second time through, there's all those funny little moments, but it's not like a coherent episode of enjoyment. So I think I'd have to give it I'm just going to go with my gut, a 2.5 out of 5 Scooby Snacks for enjoyment. Maybe 3. Maybe I'll be nice and do a 3. 3 out of 5 Scooby Snacks. No, 2.5. Go with your gut. But like it really was, I feel like the environment itself was actually creepy. So I'll give it a 4 out of 5 cobwebs because like the pirate ship's pretty cool. But the characters themselves weren't actually scary.
No.
Okay. 3.5 cobwebs. Okay.
I'm glad you went with your gut there because I was going to give it about a 2.5 for enjoyment. It seemed to get stuck ever so
Yes.
often. Like the enjoyment of it would kind of plateau until they did something silly. I'll give it 2.5. The random little moments did add to it. As far as spookiness goes, this pirate ship was really good. I'll give it a 3. 3 cobwebs.
I'm going to give it 2 out of 5 cobwebs. It was not spooky. It was.
The story itself was not at all.
No,
Yeah.
there was nothing really spooky about that story. And I gotta give it 2 out of 5 Scooby Snacks. It was not a memorable story either.
Wow. We hardly get any webs or snacks for that pirate stew.
Yeah, sorry, Redbeard.
Sorry, my dude.
Mamba Wamba and the Voodoo Hoodoo. I just love this. It's just a fun episode. 5 out of 5 Scooby Snacks. 4.5 out of 5 cobwebs. Because it wasn't like as terrifying as Night of Fright. But like there's definitely some spooky moments, I would say.
I definitely agree with that. I think I would give it 4.5 cobwebs as well because, I mean, I talked up the location. It looked great. Atmosphere was great. I don't think they used it as well as they could have for the creepiness factor. I think they could have done even more with it, but I might just be prejudiced because of Zombie Island.
Well, that's just all creepy factor. That is all the cobwebs. So
Yes.
Yeah, that's every cobweb. Exceeds 5. As far as enjoyment goes, I would give it a 4 because as silly and fun as it was, that song, man, that song's not worth anything.
that's
It took
what
down
made
a whole
it
Scooby
so
Snack.
Like you can't expect me to believe that song would make any kind of money, and that's what the whole plot hinges on. So can't do it.
Did someone make this a thing? Like, did someone like remix this on YouTube? I'm gonna find out. Gabby, give us your ratings.
I'm also going to give it a 4 out of 5 for enjoyment because it was wild and crazy. And the voodoo monster was very well done. Like, he looked creepy.
Yes, the zombie.
Yes.
I love the zombie.
What do you get for creepiness? How many cobwebs?
3.5 out of 5. It wasn't very creepy for me.
Well, I think we're more so judging it on its spookiness than creepiness because what Scooby-Doo is actually genuinely creepy. Like, genuinely.
Zombie Island.
Well, I'm talking about from this era, though. The Where Are You era doesn't have too many genuinely creepy moments.
No, you're right.
They're few and far between. So it's more of a spooky level.
I still didn't find it very spooky.
That's valid.
Yeah.
Okay, the creepy case of old Iron Face. I really do enjoy it. I would give it 4.5 Scooby Snacks. And creepiness, overall, it's not actually that scary. But, like, I love the prison setting. I love the mask story. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 cobwebs. Because, like, I can really appreciate the dark story and stuff. Like, I feel like that was pretty spooky.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think actually, now that we've watched it more than once, I would probably give it a 5 now because of Mama Mion. Like, she really makes this as the monster and as herself. She really elevates the whole story. Iron Face is a great villain. or a great monster, ghost, whatever. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And like we said, like it's totally believable that Mama Yon is doing all of those stunts because she is a beast. Yeah. So that makes it a 5 for me.
5 what?
Oh, 5 Scooby Snacks. Spookiness level, I'm going to make that like a 2. Because, like you said, it's not really a spooky episode. The backstory for Iron Face definitely is like dark and bleak. But that's just the backstory. What we actually see in the episode isn't creepy. Not to me.
Can I
anyway.
revise? Can I make mine a 3? Jesse speaks logic.
But that's my judging. What about you guys?
I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 Scooby Snacks. Just because... Actually, no, I'm gonna make it a 5 out of 5. Yeah, it's a 5 out of 5. Like that episode. It's wild.
It is wild.
It is wild. And creepiness, I'm gonna give it about 2 cobwebs. Yeah. Yeah, 2.
Yay! Dun 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 dun.
I really enjoyed all of these. I did. Even though I judged some harshly, like compared to others, it's always fun to watch old Scooby-Doo.
I feel like they mean so much more to me personally now that I know that they all tie together and were referenced and used in Frankencreepy. It's just, I love it.
Well, it's nice to see Scooby-Doo make use of its history. Like, you'll get references to stuff here and there, but Frankencreepy really, like, takes the whole, we have an entire franchise of material and says, why don't we just build a brand new story using 4 other stories? Like, that's really cool. They have the ability to do that, and we don't see that as much.
No, we don't.
More often than not, I see them breaking from what they've written in the past and rewriting it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine, too, because if you can reinvent a good idea and make it even better, I mean, I think that's cool, too. It's a very versatile show.
Sometimes I find it annoying because there are 3 or 4 or more versions of each of the characters' families. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Who's their real family? We don't know.
I don't know. According to all of the episodes altogether, Fred's got like 3 different parents, and like Daphne has like 4 families.
See, I feel like it's better when they just say, this is my cousin.
Yeah.
For everything. Or this
like
is my uncle.
Yeah.
Like, just keep doing that. Don't name your actual parents or siblings because that gets really confusing, but you can have a million cousins.
Oh,
especially in Scooby-Doo. Like, Daphne's family is the most extensive, just from the whole franchise.
And they're all rich.
And they're all rich. Yeah.
Well, that's all I got, guys. That's all I got.
We'll have to pick something to talk about next time. I don't have the brain for it right now, but we'll have to figure out what we're doing next.
Yes, I have some ideas. I'll run them by you. It's been real, y'all. Thanks for coming along. Jesse, Gabby, do you guys have any final words before we shut down, go to sleep, and say goodbye to the peoples?
Nope, I want to shut down and go to sleep. I really enjoyed this. This is fun.
Don't forget to take a brain break. Ever. Always do brain breaks.
And drink water.
Lots of water.
Wear your seatbelt.
Thank you, parents of the podcast, Jesse and Gabby. Where would we be without you?
Dehydrated and in a car accident.
Ooh. All right. You can find us on the interwebs at ATA with Danny and Ray on Instagram, Facebook, and email. Send us your suggestions, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.